Okay, I have a guest with me today. I have Trish Weaver Rhodes. She is an actress and a director. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing
Good.
well. It feels like it's raining where I am, but I'm not sure.
You're in New York.
I'm I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, you're in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like
It's
muggy and like it's cloudy out.
it's pretty blue here actually, looking out my
Oh, that's
window.
great.
Yes, it's very
Good.
nice out. Except I work in an office building, so I'm freezing every second of every day. So I'm in my lovely sweater.
So am I correct? You grew up in Ohio.
I did. Yes.
Cool.
Yes. Northeastern Ohio, a little town called Canfield, Ohio, between Akron and
Canfield.
Cleveland. Yes.
Cool. How was
Yes.
growing up in Ohio?
I can't complain. I had such a great
Yeah.
childhood. I had a great time, honestly. I'm the youngest of 6,
Wow.
so and I'm the only girl. So, yes, I have 5 older brothers, um,
Wow.
all of which I believe no, 2 of them don't live there anymore. Most of them all still sort of gravitate to
It
that
must have
same.
been hard going dating with
I can't
6
even
or 5 other
explain to you.
brothers.
Well, the age differences are so vast. So my oldest brother was
Yeah.
married and leaving the house when I was like 4. So
Uh,
it was really 3 of us. It was really like 3 and 3. Like 3 of
yeah.
them had left and then 3 of us were there. So
3 in the
um
nest, 3 out.
yes. Oh, there were we had a lot of my parents had like 55 acres. So we
Mm,
had, the barn and the horses and the lake and all the
that's cool.
property and of course, you'd go back to the barn and you'd have the fire and all this stuff. And then the
Yeah.
brother would come with the shotgun and try to be funny and scare them away. And it was like,
It's
what
like,
are
"No,
you
don't do
doing to
that.
me?
Let
Yeah.
me let me let me date, please."
Yes. There was a lot of that. But no, it was
That's
great. It
cool.
was a great childhood. Great way to grow up, for
So you
sure.
so you had horses. That's cool.
Yes. Yes. I
Cool.
had a pony named Velvet.
Oh, velvet,
Yes,
not
Velvet
buttercup?
was my pony. Yes. The little 4-H, the little horse showing, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, cool.
In fact, it's interesting. It's a funny story. I'm adopted,
Mm,
and my oldest brother actually, he's 17, 18 years older than me. He actually bought me the pony. And
mm,
so I didn't know who my biological parents were, obviously. So growing up, it
mm.
was one of those things like, are you really my dad? Like, did they do something?
Yeah.
Like our whole life, I would always say to him, like, are you really my dad? He's like, I'm not your dad. you know, like you bought me a pony. Who does that? So
Yeah,
yeah, but no, he's not my dad.
yeah. Do you think, I don't know, I've been reading something about that horses, bring calmness. Do you believe that is true?
I believe that to be very true, actually. Yeah, there's
Since you've
something
spent time
about
with
that.
the
They're
horse?
so big and just
Yeah,
so deliberate in their motion, in their movement,
yeah,
that it's kind of like it sort of forces you to pay attention, I guess, and be a little more
yeah,
calm. Otherwise, you're getting stepped on and you're getting,
yeah.
bucked off or what have you. So I feel like they're very calming.
I rode a horse, I think, when I was 6, and I fell off, and that was the last time.
The one and only time. Yeah, it's
I
not
was like
fun.
o
Falling
I was
off
like
is not
on
fun.
it, and I fell off. I didn't know to hold on. I mean, I'd probably be fine now, but, like, then I just remember ending up in the bushes and be like, "No, not doing that again."
Or I just picture you like,
Yeah, I was, like, on the side of the horse, and then I just, like, ended up in these
oh,
bushes, and I just remember
that
it hurting
happened.
and being like, "This no, not
That
doing
can happen.
this."
Yeah.
I mean, now I would know what to do. I'd be like, "Okay, just be calm,
Yeah, they're
be
very
with it."
and ponies are considerably smaller than horses, mind you.
Yeah,
So, as a younger kid, a pony was,
yeah.
more appropriate. But even now, like my kids, my oldest daughter actually loves horses. She rides horses. She was
Yeah.
showing them and all that stuff.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
they're big. I would go to the barn with
Yes.
her used to my Velvet, and she's at how old was she? 10,
Yeah.
riding this thing that's
It's
almost taller
gigantic.
than I am like,
I know it's scary. I
But
mean,
they are, you just go up to them and their little noses, and they're so, like, calming, and it's lovely.
yeah.
It's a nice
Yeah,
afternoon.
no, I mean, that's the sad thing I see when I was in New York is seeing the horses and they'd just be like just miserable. And I'd be like, this
On the
is
street, oh, I know.
horrible what we're doing with these horses.
The carriage rides, ugh,
Yeah.
especially in
It's
the
just
winter and everybody's there and everybody wants to have that experience, and I just would look at them
yeah.
like, "Oh my god,
It's like it's
horrible."
not romantic for them.
No, not at
This is
all.
slavery for them. They are
Ugh,
not happy.
horrible, horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
Mm.
Did you have other animals on the farm? Do you have
On
like
the
pigs
farm?
on the
Yeah,
farm?
we had okay, so we had such a eclectic
Yeah.
we had such crazy, so we had, like, horses, got rid of them, and then I came along, and then we had the pony, so that the pony was
Yeah.
for a long time. We had a husky, we had dogs always.
Mm.
We had rabbits, we had about 8
Mm.
rabbits because growing up, my brother thought it was funny to put them together, and, they multiply, so we just kept having
Really? So
rabbits.
they're like
Yes.
gremlins.
Yes, kinda like that. We had a nice amount of rabbits. We had a goat named Fred who used to
Oh,
chase people into the pool, which was always a
wow.
fun time. Um,
Wow.
what else did we have? We had a raccoon. We had a
Oh,
Rocky.
wow.
We had a raccoon named Rocky for a short amount of time. We always ended up being a place that sort of took in and helped
Yeah.
animals get back together. Um,
Did you have bears?
Actually, oddly enough, our property butt up against, and mind you, this is like 50 acres
Yeah.
away to
Yeah.
this farm, and they had bears, but they also had bulls. And
Oh, wow.
one summer morning, the windows are all open. It's Ohio. It's lovely. As a little kid, I'm woken up to yelling and realize there is a bull in our front yard charging people. And we lived on the end of a street, like the dead end. So we had like the
Yeah.
whole, and I just remember as a little kid thinking, this is insane. There's a bull in our front yard. One of the neighbors thought it was fun to bring a red thing and was trying to like get it to
Yeah, I
like,
wouldn't do that.
yeah, and just watching and like idiots out there running around trying to wrangle in this bull to nothing, mind you. Like there were no cell phones at the time.
Yeah.
We didn't even know we didn't know how to contact these people. They were just driving around trying
Yeah.
to find their bull. So
Yeah, we didn't
hours
have the
later,
internet. You couldn't,
exactly.
go
So
on there and be like, "Where are the bull sanctuaries?"
thank you. So this little, an hour or so later, this truck comes barreling down the road with a, you know, back end for the bull thing and pushes it in there. And it
Mm,
listens to this guy like it's, nobody's business. Meanwhile,
yeah.
everybody in the neighborhood is like trying to
Yeah.
like
Get the bull. It's a
wrangle the bull.
bull.
Yeah. So stuff like that did happen quite frequently. My horse,
That's so
Velvet, would
cool.
get out, and we'd get a call
Yeah.
from the neighbor across the street. She'd be like, Velvet's in our backyard. Okay. So I'd have to go across the street, grab her.
Would
She would just start
would the horse know where it is, or would it, like,
yes.
come
Oh yeah,
back,
she knew.
or yeah.
She would just start
Mm.
grazing. And let's just say like somebody left the fence open or something. She would just eat her
It's like,
way.
"I'm gonna keep going.
She would just
Just
keep
gonna
going.
keep going.
Be
What's
like, Velvet,
this? It's
Velvet's in our
new.
garden. Like, sorry. Hey, go get her.
It's a new place for me to go."
Yes.
Um, so did you were you introduced to the theater, at a young age?
Um, no. No.
No.
Nobody in my no.
No.
Nobody in my family. I'm sort of an anomaly in that respect.
Yeah.
Nobody was into the arts at all.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just kind of who I was, I guess.
Mhm.
I used to make tapes with my little black tape recorder when I was little,
Yeah.
which I still have, which are just hilarious now. We used to,
Oh, that's so cool.
yeah, we used to do commercials. I do, like, back in the day, it was always,
Yeah.
Price is Right, during the day,
Yeah.
whatever. And before, I would be home alone because all my brothers would be off in school. And that was back when nursery school was like only like 2 days a week or whatever. So I'd be
Yeah.
home with my mom, and I'd go in the dining room under the table and I'd have my little tape recorder and I'd do like The
Mhm.
Price is Right. I'd do the show from beginning to end, like all the voices and all that stuff. So that
Oh,
was kind
that's
of
so
like
cool.
my entertainment for myself, I
Yeah.
guess. Um, and then second grade, was my very first play. It was a Christmas play, and
Mm.
I was elf number 1, and I was the only elf that had
Elf number one.
lines.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah?
I was elf number 1. There was 3 of us. Yes.
Yeah.
So that was my first sort of for it, and loved it. And then it was, I think the first, I was thinking about this the other day. The first time I ever
Yeah.
directed anything was in 5th grade, and
Really?
we had to do this history project. And I can't remember the details, but I remember there were kings and queens, and we had to make a little set in the center room in between all the classrooms.
Yeah.
And I sort of, I think kind of by personality sort of just took over and started like directing people on what to do or whatever. And
Stand there. Go there.
that was sort of like that little start of that thing.
Yeah.
Um, and then middle school, I remember we all went as 5th graders to see the middle school. So we had this like tour and all this stuff. And as part of that, the 8th grade put on like a little show for us. They had a drama club in 8th grade. And I
Mm.
remember, oh my God, I'm so excited. I can't wait to go to middle school. You can join drama club. I thought that was the most amazing thing ever. Well, the following year, 6th grade, they cut drama club. So I was in 6th grade, like
No.
I was so excited. Then I had to wait for high school to do any kind of, theater.
And then
And
they
I
cut drama
think,
club again? No, I'm kidding.
yes, exactly. Drama club, you know, high
We're gonna
school.
get rid of it. You're coming in? Oh, well, we already cut
Yeah,
it.
right. Nobody really wants to do this anyway. I was so bummed. But then we
Yeah.
had what was it called? I can't even think. It was in Youngstown, Ohio. It was called Powers Auditorium,
Mm.
I believe, or it was the Youngstown, I want to say like Youngstown Playhouse, but I think I'm just thinking Lake Worth Playhouse. So I'm throwing those words together.
Yeah.
But it was something like that, but it was in Youngstown and I can't think.
Yeah.
Oh, I had COVID. And so my brain, like, gone, like words don't
Yeah.
happen anymore. Like it's awful. So I apologize. Um,
When did you have COVID?
oh, back like when it was really bad, like in the
Oh,
beginning,
yeah?
2020,
Yeah.
January of 20, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
Mm.
my kids, my daughter got it first, then I
Yeah.
got it, then my other daughter got it. So we were like down for the count. But they're
Yeah.
fine. Me, I just feel
That's
like
good.
brain cells have gone.
You feel like it just took everything?
Everything, everything. But yeah, so I went and I took a drama class, like an acting class at
Mm.
this playhouse. And I still have the papers like stapled that they gave us on how to do
Yeah.
scenes and how to do this. And but that was literally like 4 weeks. It was just like a blurb, like a Saturday morning thing that you did.
Yeah.
So that was really my only
Did you have
other
a
than
pretentious teacher?
no, probably. I think about that now. God, I wish I could
"Sit
remember.
here. Sit. You will now act for me. You are all 6, but you will do more."
You will breathe. Yes, yes, probably. I'm sure. With a bunch of like, elementary school kids, that has to be so much fun.
I
But
know,
yeah,
it's
that was,
like
I mean, other than just being like a dramatic kid, I think, I
yeah.
don't, I really never had, I always, I was, my parents used to say they would get so mad because I was like the remote control back in that time period.
Mhm.
We didn't have a
Yeah.
remote and we had the 3 channels.
Yeah.
So I would love the commercials. Like I would watch all of the commercials. I loved commercials. I thought they were fabulous. And I
Really?
would make everybody shut up. Like the show would come on, I'd be like, and the commercials would come on. I was like, zip it,
Let's
you know.
watch the commercial.
Yeah, it was crazy. My parents were like, it was so weird. You were like that for years. Like you
Watch
just
the
wanted to watch
commercial.
the commercials. So I
Yeah,
just,
like
and then I think again, we didn't have cable until I was in
yeah.
high school. So
Yeah.
it was when I was home or, whatever, it was soap operas.
Yeah.
That's what I grew up on, soap
Yeah.
operas, and they wonder why I'm dramatic. Like that's that we didn't have like Blues Clues when I was little. We had Days of Our Lives.
Days of our
So that's where that comes from.
That's funny. So your parents were supportive of your,
Oh yeah.
affinity for the arts?
Oh god, yeah. Yeah. They were every lesson, I did fashion shows when I was younger. Like in middle school, I did
Oh, yeah?
modeling.
Oh, that's so cool.
I did the like you know, dance lessons. Oh my God.
We'll teach you how to walk. They make it
Yes.
sound like it's like the
How to
hardest thing in the
turn,
world.
how to hit
It's
the
like
post.
it's
Yes,
not.
all of that lovely stuff.
They always
My
say.
mom, like every lesson, drove me all over God's green
Yeah.
earth for all of that stuff. Like, couldn't have been like, never told me no, never said,
Yeah.
although
Yeah,
they
it's
did
kinda
say
my
no,
parents.
they did put their foot down. I really wanted to take piano lessons, and they were like, "We're not
Really?
buying a piano just to
They
have
didn't
you
want it.
quit
Oh, wow.
in like 2 days." Because I was that person. I would try everything
Yeah,
and then move on,
yeah,
except for like the acting, like this type of thing. I think that's why maybe looking back, they were so supportive because I stuck with it,
yeah.
as opposed to like trying everything else and like,
Now, were you somebody that could be still? Could you do camera work stuff? Because like, that's something I found out from somebody I was interviewing about kids, actors, and like, the thing you gotta find is one that can be still to be able to hold
still now. Are you
frame.
kidding? Like, no. You know, oddly enough, I grew up thinking I wanted to be a movie actor.
Mm.
And then
Who's
I
your
went
favorite?
and then I
Who did
well, then I went to college
Yeah.
and took all of the classes, and we had this class that was, I think at the time it was called acting for the camera.
Mm.
I never wanted to die so much in my life as watching that back. Oh my, and I didn't realize, okay, this is the 90s, mind you.
Yeah.
Scrunchy on top of the head, 90s
Yeah.
hair.
Yeah.
And all you saw was this. Everything I said, you would see my head and this scrunchie bobbing. And I was like mortified. Like, I look like that? Like,
I know,
what
but like all actors, when they put you on tape first, you're like, "That's what we do? Really? God, I'm
horrible.
boring."
Like, we all died. Like, every single person in the class realized, oh, every motion you make is so exaggerated. Even
Yeah,
just like little or blinking, like I never realized like my eyes
yeah.
are like all over the place. Like, this is horrible. I'm done. Why am I even doing this? I can't be on camera. What is wrong with me? This is stupid. I'm like, oh, there's theater. Fine.
Who did you idolize growing up? Like, who was your, like, dream actress?
I didn't get like I wasn't one of those kids that was like into film growing
Yeah,
up because that wasn't something that was accessible really to me.
yeah,
Like again, we didn't have cable.
yeah.
I fell in love with every actor from so embarrassing. From like
No, this is
Knight
great.
Rider to like the
Nightmare, so, like
fall
so,
guy,
what's his
MacGyver.
name?
Like I
Oh
all
my
of
god.
these, yes, all of
Yeah,
these ridiculous. Uh,
yeah,
and then, I became high school and college and actually started branching out and seeing. And,
yeah.
I was obsessed for a long time with Marilyn Monroe, but I think mostly
Mm,
because of her tragedy, like her story was more
yeah,
interesting to me than necessarily the acting. Um, Audrey Hepburn was
yeah,
like, oh, I
yeah.
when I first saw Breakfast at Tiffany's, it's such a
Mm,
cliche, but it just was like, or
yeah,
Roman Holiday to this day is like one
yeah.
of my absolute favorite movies ever, 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 ever.
Right back.
And
It's a good movie.
it was interesting that the weekend that I auditioned for college, she
Mm,
died that same time. And
yeah,
I remember I was like, I don't know why it affected me. So like I was 18, like this is why is this something that affect? And one of the
yeah,
questions they asked was much like that in my interview for school. And I remember it was like a
yeah,
20-minute dissertation. So I'm like, she had just died. And then halfway through, I'm like, okay, I should probably stop talking now. And they
yeah.
all were just laughing and dying. And it was
So,
like,
yeah,
I went on this tangent and then I left
yeah.
there and was like, I am not getting into college. Like that
But
was
that's what they want. That's what they
they
want you to do.
remembered me. In fact, I was the only person from my audition day that even made it. Like they were, and
Because
I was the
everybody
first one
else is
to
just
go.
gonna come in with a prepared speech and it's gonna be boring, and you came in and was like, "Oh, wow, it's fun." That's why, usually, like, the guy that's running the camera at an audition or whatever, they'll be like, "Well, you wanna show up?" And it'd be like, he won't be nervous because he's been sitting watching all these,
Yeah,
auditions. He'll just be a normal human being, and they'll be like, "Oh, he gets it."
yeah,
And it's like,
yeah, for sure.
"Sorry, guys. Sorry." Sorry you were all stressed out, but none of you got it.
None of you got it. Hi. Sorry.
But I love that you told them, all about Audrey.
Oh, it was ridiculous. It was like, and you know how you hear yourself talking sometimes,
Yeah,
and you're like, "Oh, please just stop talking. Why are you still talking?" I remember
yeah.
thinking like, "Oh my god, just stop talking." But it was
Somebody come
entertaining.
up and hit me across the face.
Something like, where's that big hook? Like, somebody, where,
Yeah,
take me off here.
it's like Chinatown. Jack Nicholson's gonna come out and be like, "Stop it, snap out of it," or yeah, Cher and
Share.
Moonstruck, "Snap out of it."
For sure. For sure.
That's so funny. That's so funny. So you went to University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music.
Yes.
Were you a musical theater
No.
person?
In fact,
Okay.
they're huge there for that.
Mm.
No, I was
Well,
just in the theater
music's in the
department.
music's in the
You
thing.
know, it is. It is. Yeah, no, don't sing, sadly.
Yeah.
No, no. But it was interesting because the theater departments, you took
Mm.
some classes with, you mixed departments, obviously. Like
Yeah.
some of the musical theater guys would be in our classes and we take dance with some of them. Like it was all sort of mixed.
Yeah.
Um, and it used to blow my mind how like, I thought I took school pretty seriously, but some of these kids were like tap dancing to class, man. They like never stopped. It was like,
Wow.
we
Yeah.
were taking, I think I had at the most 19 credit hours a quarter. It was a lot.
Mm.
Like there was no time for a side job. There was nothing. It was like,
That was like me at the neighborhood playhouse in Strasbourg. It's like, "Can I take more?" I'm like, "No, you can't, but I wanna learn about this too."
yeah,
And they just wouldn't let you, do
yeah.
anymore.
Like, no, we maxed out at 19 hours. That's all you
Yeah.
really can be here.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's yeah, when you get to that field, you start finding, yeah, the people that are like that's all
Super,
they do.
oh yeah, super
Especially
serious.
dancers. They
Oh
have
my
to
gosh.
do it like
Yeah. And we had to, you know, part of our, um, like we had to take costumes, we had to take lighting. I mean, you took everything.
yeah.
And then you'd have to crew shows. So the first show that I crewed in my
Mm.
life was cabaret for
Ah.
costume,
Oh, okay.
which
Yeah.
was like
Wow.
like completely like surrounded by like nakedness for like an entire show. And like I learned about quick changes and these are very little costumes. Like, oh my
Yeah.
god. Like
And you've
it
gotta
was
get so much time. I know, I think if they were like if they came up with theater today, they would have been like, "Let's give them a little bit more time to get the costumes on," as
little bit.
opposed to like as opposed to like a minute where you're like just throwing things off and
Oh my
it's just
god.
like, "There's no
I
time to
just
be modest. Get it on."
no, no modesty. Oh, you kidding? No modesty. I would stand off stage. I was a fast change girl and
Yeah.
literally just like stand like this. And it was like just like covered in like pantyhose
Yeah.
and bras and G strings and weird things coming at
I
me. Just
remember my first play, like, we were doing the dress rehearsal and, like, I still hadn't gotten I was new, so I kinda gotten the whole quick change thing, so, like, at one point, I was coming out with, like, my pants almost down, I'm, like, pulling them up as I'm doing it, and they're like the
yeah,
director's like, "Yeah, you can't really be showing up like you just had sex
no,
backstage."
no, it's a learned skill. It's a learned skill.
It is, I mean, you just gotta, like,
Yes.
learn time and just be like that, you know? I've
Yeah.
never done that before, but it was like the first time, and I'm like, "Oh, how much time do I have? Oh, wait."
And they're like,
And
you're on
it's
now.
like yeah, it's like, "Wait, hold on." I'm pulling, I'm coming out like, "Yeah, let's not do it where you're."
Yeah. Yeah. Cover.
Just got up out of bed and you're like, "Hey, yeah, I'm here. What's up?"
Yeah. Yeah, I just directed a show that had a
Mm.
lot of quick changes for a lot of older women who were very concerned, with the
Sex
timing.
Please were 60?
That one, yes, and I just did Calendar Girls actually.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, yeah, you did
yeah,
do
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
I'm
so
not talking
there were some really, really fast, and I just kept telling them, you know what, I would rather you be on and doing this scene. I don't care if you're in the same outfit you just had on. I don't care if you're in the same
yeah,
costume. Like, don't let it be that important. It's really, you
yeah.
know, it's not that important. Like there's
Just
some
get out there.
obviously shows that it's kind of important. This is not one of them. It's okay.
Yeah,
You know, don't kill yourself.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
You know?
So it's sort of you have to just kind of keep that in the back of your head. Like what's more important? Like the lines and being
Yeah.
on, or you're wearing the same shirt as you did last week,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, all right, so with, after graduating there, did you go where did you go? Did you
Oh, after graduating, I was a mess. It was like the
Yeah.
first time after
Yeah.
um, college where you really don't have to be anywhere or do anything. And it was like, oh
Yeah.
my God, I've been in school my whole life and now I'm 18 and I have
What do
this
I
whole
do?
world. What am I going to do? Yeah. And it was interesting. My graduating class was the first class that had a showcase. It was really new to that
Mm,
program.
yeah.
Um, and now, oh my God, the showcases they do now are crazy. I mean, they travel to New York, they travel to Los Angeles. Ours was just in Cincinnati, and a couple people were invited, but it wasn't anything like it is
Yeah.
today. Um, and I was, like, I would like to go back and smack myself because it was such an arrogance of, no, I want to do film. I want to go to Los Angeles. I'm going to go to
Yeah.
Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And the agents,
Oh,
everything that
yeah.
were there kept saying, like, you'd be great in New York. You should go to New York, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I went to Los Angeles and hated it
Yeah.
so much. Hated it. My roommate, my best friend in the entire world was like, she was a business major actually. She was like, well, I
Yeah.
have nowhere to go. I'll go with you. And this is, 1997,
Yeah.
yeah. So this was before, we packed everything and went to the airport, went out to Los Angeles and we were there, looking for a place to live, all this stuff. I think we were there for like 4 days and we were sitting in the car. It was pouring down rain, had a rental car. We were sitting in Ralph's or I can't think what the big chain store was. First of all, they hadn't had rain in like something like
Yeah.
100 and something days at this point. And the minute we got down, it started pouring and
Of
rained the
course.
entire time we were there. I'm like, it's a sign. Like, and both of us are sitting there. We're like, we hate it here. We don't want to be here.
Yeah.
Like, why are we here? So we were there for like
Yeah.
2 weeks, and we ended up going back to Ohio. And I was like, at this point, it's summer. It's after summer. It's
Yeah.
entering fall, and I'm just like, I got to do something. Like, what am I doing? I'm like living in my parents' basement,
Yeah.
all bummed out about, life choices.
Yeah.
So then I
We
get
all go through
the
that.
internet. You just got a computer. The internet was new.
Oh, yeah.
This is
Yeah.
like the start of AOL.
The dial-up and
Yes.
that's
Yes. And so I actually went online and found a hotel and got a train ticket and gave myself 10 days and went to New York and decided I was going to find a place to live. And
awesome.
my parents were like, you're 19? What are you doing? Like, we're sending
Yeah.
you,
Oh.
like, or I'm sorry, not 19. You're 20 with at that time, 22. Like, we're
Yeah.
sending you on a train by yourself. Like, oh my God. Like, the minute my dad dropped me off at the train station, he's like, you sure you don't want me to go with you? I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So went and I stayed at the Pickwick Arms, which is like the seediest of seedy hotels. And I had a room this big and I shared a bathroom in the hall. And I just went to New York with like savings that my
Yeah.
parents had saved for, that big move you make in your life.
Yeah.
And that was it. I went and found a place and crazy. Like I had surrogate grandparents all over the city. Like every time I
Mm.
met anybody, they're like, "You're here by yourself? Like, what? Like, how can you be here by yourself?" And I,
Yeah.
I found a sublet, and they were musicians. They were traveling Europe, playing with West Side Story, I believe.
And this is
And
back when we didn't really have, like, Craigslist and all these other
no,
things,
no.
which are
In
easy.
fact, oh my God, this is such a funny
Oh,
story. So I was at the Pickwick Arms, and right across the street, and this is like Midtown, like 57th or something
fif
like that.
okay.
Right across the street was this giant building, and there was a sign that said, rent, like for rent, whatever. So I'm like, okay, I like walk in, and I'm like, I'd like to, rent a room, and they looked at me like I was insane. And they're like, yeah, it doesn't work that way. And then a guy was coming off the elevator and he was like, what are you doing? Like he was a realtor. by chance and was
Mm,
like, "You, oh, don't come with me, come with me." It's like I had no idea what I was doing. And okay, so I go with him,
yeah,
and he knew these people. He had just got hired by the last name was the Lynx. And
mm,
he was like, I know some people who are looking for a sublet. It's only 3 months. That might be, a good enough time for you to get your feet wet and,
yeah,
learn what to do or whatever. And so that happened. He introduced me to them. I had a sublet, like I'd been in New York for 3 days and I found a place and I had like 8 more days
yeah,
to go. So I just was like a giant tourist walking around you know,
yeah.
and then went home and I was like, I found a place to live. And my parents were like, oh my God, okay.
Yay. Yeah,
Yeah. And then
I mean,
by Thanksgiving, I think it was, I was packing up all my stuff. My parents drove me. It was like a 6 hour drive from where they lived, up five
yeah,
flights of stairs, no elevator. It was lovely with my old parents carrying all of my books and everything. I was like,
yeah.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was something I learned in New York. It was like, yeah, be either the second floor or have a place with an elevator.
Yeah, it was
It's
ridiculous.
not fun.
And their place was amazing. It was
Mm.
the like front to back of railroad. Is that what they call them? Like the 6 rooms that are all laid out.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I had. I have it in Harlem, yeah,
Yeah,
in
and
Harlem,
then
so like
they
the
came
railroad
back
apartment.
and I found my own place, which was just a studio, which was so
Yeah,
small. Again, fifth floor walkout.
yeah,
Love those. Yeah.
but you were able to do that without like, I don't know what the hell. I mean, like now with the internet, I'd be like, what do I go there? I mean, I remember when I would bring in new roommates or whatever. I mean, we had one person that came and it was like she didn't speak English and she's trying to talk to me through a Google translator and I'm just
Yep.
like, no, I can't do this. I can't. There's no way I'm communicating with you through through Google. Be like, we need, this. I was always the one
Rent.
that would like write everything down and be like, all right, here's the supplies we all do. We split it down 4 ways. Otherwise, somebody ends up paying for everything. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
and be like, how am I going to talk to the person who can't speak English? Or we had another person who came and she didn't even, she was like, she goes to bed at like 8:30. And I'm like, we're all like in our 20s. What are you talking about? We're not, this isn't camp.
Yeah,
Gonna
that's
be,
rough.
but so I know exactly what you mean in New
Yeah.
York. It's but that's good. You had a railroad. The railroad apartments are nice
It
because
was
they're,
awesome. I
they're
miss that.
they're
Yeah,
spaced
that's
out.
why they were subletting because they were rent controlled, so they didn't wanna lose, like, they paid
Yeah.
nothing. Oh my god, and then I
Yeah.
left them and paid, like, double for the smaller space. I was like, "Oh my god."
Well, I mean, there used to be places in New York which were specifically for artists, and then
Yeah.
capitalism said no. We're going to
No,
take this
need to make them
space.
up. Yeah.
We need all of this.
Yeah, we
Thank you,
need every bit of
Bloomberg.
this.
He
Yeah,
took those, and it's like, that would have been so nice for when I was there. I'd have been like, I'm
yeah,
going into the actors' apartments. And now it's
yeah.
like, I mean, it's the same thing now. Now you can't even really put on a play
No,
there
it's
like you used to.
no, no, and to be fair, I mean, I lived there
The
9
producers club, let us go.
Yes.
It's like a hole in the wall with nothing.
I lived there 97, 98, and
Yeah.
it was perfectly lovely. It felt perfectly safe. Everything was fine. But to
Yeah.
be honest, I was such a giant tourist. Like I
Mm.
put zero effort into acting. Like zero. I it was honestly one of the best years of my life and it was so much
Yeah.
fun and I did so much
Yeah.
and I don't regret any of it. I do wish I would have actually,
Yeah.
I went on some interviews. I went on auditions, but it was nothing like I wasn't really pushing anything. And this was back when
Yeah.
you just had a phone number. You had
Yeah.
the voicemail and you were supposed to send all your headshots out to like
It's
every single
terrifying. You
agent.
gotta go
Yeah.
in there and you're like, "Please pick me. Please pick
Yeah.
me." And you're just
Yeah.
like, and that's
Yeah.
like the worst thing you could do. It's
Yeah.
almost like knowing nothing sometimes is the best thing to do to come into the business because
I
you
swear
don't know enough to be scared.
that was 100% me. I didn't know enough to know that what I didn't know, I guess, in a
Yeah,
weird way. And I had a great time. It was a lot of fun.
yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
was a lot of fun.
So all right, so how do you get involved with Lake Worth?
So I moved here. I followed a boy back in the early
Mhm.
2000s and then broke
Okay.
up with the boy and then found another boy and got married and had kids.
And the boy.
So I was living in Ohio. I was living in Columbus, Ohio, and
Yeah.
the boy at the time was going to go to culinary school, which was down here. And my
Mm,
parents had a vacation house in Delray that we've had since
mm,
I was tiny.
yeah.
And I was like, oh, could I maybe live in the house for a year and he could go to, school and then we'll just come back to Columbus. Like that was the plan.
Columbus,
And
yeah.
that was 20 years ago. So I'm still here.
Yeah,
Yeah. So then I'd done theater in Columbus before I moved here. And again, moved here, got a bartending job, just wasn't even thinking about, acting because we were going to go
yeah,
back.
yeah,
Then I ended up staying here and then life just sort of took over. And all of a sudden I was having kids and getting married and doing all this other stuff. And I'd lost that part of me,
mm,
and I didn't
mhm,
realize it really until I found it again, how much that really was a part of
yeah.
me and how much um, I needed it, you
That's what
know,
Daniel said. He
it,
had the
it,
same thing
I
happen to
just,
him.
yeah. And I didn't, okay, so I got a job here where I work now.
Yeah,
And there was a young lady that worked here as an intern who was from Florida. So she knew this area anyway. And she was from Lake Worth. So she grew up knowing the Lake Worth Playhouse and all that stuff, which I'd never even heard of up until I
mm,
went there that first time to see her because she got a part in just an ensemble part in the Heights.
mm,
And so a bunch of us from work were like, oh, we're going to go see this. And I'm thinking, like, oh, I've never even heard of this theater. Blah, blah, blah. And I remember walking in and just looking up and was like, oh my God, like this is the cool. How did I not? How have I been here all this time and didn't know this was here? Like, this is amazing.
yeah.
Went in, sat down, and the set, like the whole thing, it was such a spectacular show. It blew me away. And I have to admit, at the time, I've had the whole like community theater. Like in my mind, I'm thinking back to Youngstown, Ohio, our little community theater that I was involved in that was like community theater. Like it wasn't
Did they
anything.
did they knew their lines.
They knew their lines. That was
That
that
was
was
good
about it.
enough.
That was good enough. Yeah. So I walked into this and was like,
Intention. No.
zero.
Yeah.
Like this is amazing. And watched the show. And it was like instantly, like I felt that like spark again of, oh my God, like I've been missing this for so long.
Mm,
So then, when we went back to work and I was talking to her about it and everything, she's like, well, look at their website. They have auditions all the time, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I haven't auditioned for a show in 20 years. Like, I haven't done, and I literally
yeah,
started thinking about that. Like, I haven't done theater in 20 years. Like, this is so crazy.
yeah.
So, went on their website and they happened to have auditions coming up. Like, it was like the month later. It's like, oh my God. Okay, I'll just do it. I'll just do it. I'll just do it. And I talked myself in and out of it for like a solid month.
Yeah.
And then I showed up. It was like, whatever. What I got to lose?
Yeah.
So I went and I auditioned for, and at the time, her name was Jody, the artistic director, was directing this show, and I love that. This is so me. So
Yeah.
you walk in to the rehearsal hall, and you're walking in, and the room is like all to the right, and there's a mirror on the left. I walk in and turn left and smacked right into the mirror. I crashed right into the mirror because I saw a mirror, not realizing the room doesn't go that way. And it was
That's
like,
funny.
oh my God. And she just busted out laughing. And I was like, I can't believe, like, oh my God, this is like college interview all over again. Oh my God. And then the rest is history. Then, I auditioned and
Yeah.
she loved me and she was like, she told me later on, she was like, I felt like you really needed this. I was like, really? Like in a needy way? And she was like, no, I could just tell, like your
Yeah.
soul needed this at this time. And it was
Yeah.
so true. Like I needed
Yeah.
that again. Yeah, it was great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's kind of
Yeah.
how I felt. And then um I did that show. Um and after that is when actually I met Daniel. He was directing The Odd Couple. So I was
Mm.
like, okay, well, I auditioned for this show. I'll go try and audition for something else. And
Yeah.
I ended up being in The Odd Couple. And at the time, Dan was doing these black box shows next door in the black box theater, and
Yeah.
they were just sort of getting that up and running. And they had a show they were doing called Kimberly Akimbo, and he was like, "Oh my god, like we think you'd be so great for this. You should go." And I'm like, "Oh my god, like this was like a whirlwind. Like I went from not doing theater for 20 years to like
Yeah.
all of a sudden like doing theater again, and it was just awesome. And it just sort of like snowballed from there.
Yeah. So Kimberly Kimbo, yeah, you were in that.
Yes,
And then you do Church and State, I
Church and
believe.
State was a couple shows after. Yeah, I did Reckless
Yeah.
after that, and then Church and
Reckless.
State.
Okay.
Yeah,
Church and State. Because then
yeah.
they did like these short plays, I think, that came about. And is yeah, I think so. That was it.
But during the COVID times, I
Yeah.
feel like that
Yeah,
should be like
COVID
a big
time. Yeah.
back in COVID times. We did,
Back in the
yes, we
old
did
days.
these shorts where we did all these Zoom plays. So Dan came
Yeah.
up with this whole concept where he picked a bunch of us and we wrote these little sketches, and then we produced them through Zoom, and then they
Mm.
ended up showing them on their website when everything was shut down, just to try to keep the momentum going of the shows, because everything I was at the time when COVID shut everybody down. I got cast in The Boys Next Door as
Mm.
the one small woman part who did like three parts. By the end of that, I was directing it because everybody had dropped out or been like we recast it so many times because it was supposed to go up in like April and then
Yeah.
didn't, and then everything was shut down, and then the director ended up moving to California, and Dan was like, why don't you, direct? And I'm like, okay.
So that's kind of how you jumped into directing
That's how I
after
jumped into
Playhouse.
directing. Yeah. And
Cool.
that was the first show that I directed there was Boys Next Door, which ended up being absolutely amazing and such a great experience. And
Yeah.
like I've never been so proud of something in my entire life. Like it was just
Yeah.
like we did this during these times. Like it
Yeah.
was crazy. It was so
Yeah.
good, and was so proud of all of them. It was awesome.
And then you did I'm jumping a little bit, but you did was God of Carnage after True West?
Let me think. Yes. No? Yes. Yes, it was. It was after. No.
Okay.
Okay. No, I acted. I was in God of Carnage. Then I directed True West.
And that was last year, right?
Yes. Yes, because yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I had to think of the timeline. Yes. I was in God
Okay.
because that was the first acting I'd done in Church and State. It was almost 3 years. I hadn't acted in, well, I take that
Mm.
back. I did do something on the main stage, but in
Mm.
that space, that was the first time I'd done anything in there in 3 years. And it's tough. I'm of the age where I'm almost too young to play old, but too old to play young. So I'm
Yeah.
in that strange demographic.
Mhm.
Um, and there aren't a lot of roles for people like
Yeah.
us,
Yeah.
that come along. Um,
Yeah.
so that's why I kind of like directing, because I feel like I get to be creative and you know
Yeah.
and really put those skills to good use.